Good day, everyone, and welcome to the journey. I am Reverend Bobby, and today I have a friend of mine from back in the day when we was in Atlanta at college, Stephanie Gregory Cootie. How are you today, Stephanie?
Hi, Bobby. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you. And while we are having just a great time here, you have a great time too. And subscribe to Gospel of Robert, capital GOSPELOF, capital ROBERT. Put the at sign in the front, and you can log on to the channel and click on the live category and see previously posted segments of the journey. So, Stephanie, tell the people a little bit about you, what you be up to, what makes you tick.
Oh, man. Um, I was thinking about when someone asks you about something about you. Almost 74 years old. And when you talk about a little bit of something about you, that's a long and a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
to keep it short, um, I'm a military brat. Ended up settling in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Went to E. E. Smith Senior High School. Finished in 70. Matriculated down at Spelman College, where I earned my BA degree in theater and mass communications. Um, Later joined the Army as an enlisted woman. Got my commission in 1978. Retired in 95, and I've been a government contractor ever since. Um, that's the short of it all.
Well, that's a pretty short. But within there, the different spaces of time and space. Like you're doing the contractor now, but you do other stuff for Stephanie. What you doing for Stephanie?
Um, it took me a long time to get to this place called It's All About Me or What About Me. Um, I was the oldest of all of the kids in my family. And because of that, spent a lot of time taking care of people. My parents got elderly. I took care of them, and now married. It's a lot. In all of that, I think there's a me, and that me recently has been about health, um, living debt free, trying to get there. But I know that in terms of what I want and what's going to sustain me from now until then, is there's two things I came up with. One,
Mhm.
healthy, make it till be at least 80, and live debt free. Those are the things that are important to me now. And during all of that, there's this notion of keeping the people around me safe and secure. That's always been like just part of it. I can't let that part go.
Well, keeping the people around you safe and secure. I know you kind of had that from growing up. Kind of did that when we was in school. Definitely in the service. Did that um avenue, or did that part of you develop through you being the oldest and that kind of stuff, or did it kind of even was in you before all of those things? You just kind of had this urge to kind of look out for the people.
you know, um, as a child, my mother and father used to say to me all the time, "You got it honest." And at 6 years old, that's when the last of my siblings was born. And
Hmm.
I took care of them. I actually made them my kids. So
Yeah.
by the time I got to Spelman, when people would have those conversations about uh, do you want children and all that, and all I could think of is I already had mine.
Mhm.
So I think and I was trained. I had a grandmother, grandfather, a mother, and they started talking to us early about thinking and reading and education and how important that was, and doing the right thing. And because I was the oldest, I got held responsible as well as accountable for things that my younger siblings did. So I never lost that. And then when I got to Spelman, of course, I was the only one of my close friends that actually was an oldest or an oldest and had siblings. All right. So
Now that's
me,
interesting.
yeah. All my other friends were either only children or only girls.
Mhm, mhm,
So
mhm.
again, there were just things that were not as familiar to them in an environment like Spelman, which is all women. We come from different parts of the country. Many of them had not traveled very much, and I had seen half the world by the time I got to Spelman. So there's just a lot of sisterhood that came naturally to me. So when I speak of it or when I think of it, it includes especially uh, getting to know those women and especially those in Morehouse Hall where I was my freshman year.
Well, you guys were unique in your
That's one word for it.
in your beingness. The crew from Morehouse Hall. I mean, I know, but it's interesting because you got on your Spelman hat, and I know how real Spelman is to you,
There's
and
a lot. There we are. You back,
so
Bobby?
yeah. So tell me something about your Spelman and how dear it is to you.
Yeah, you know,
Man.
what is it? This is 75, and the next time we have graduation at Spelman will be 76. So I am a diamond daughter now.
Mhm.
We had our 50th reunion in 24. Um, we got 100 sisters from our class to come back to Spelman to uh, experience that together. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, there was a time when if you were to ask me, it was like, especially right after graduation, I wasn't sure about how I felt about having matriculated through Spelman. Um, I was one of those kids where Dean Shivers or Dean King or Dr. Manley was always looking for me.
Yeah.
And I survived that. I also had uh, some issues with the chairpersons, or I'll say chairperson of my department.
Mhm.
Um, Took me a minute, but I did finish, right? Dad gave
Right.
me 4 years, and I did 4 years. It took me a while to really understand what having attended Spelman meant. Um, I loved it, but I had a huge social experience and spiritual experience at Spelman, or while I was at Spelman. It had nothing whatsoever to do with the classrooms or
Mhm.
the day to day grind of Spelman. It was more about people and the friends I made in college, including you and all of the fellas. And I just remember the class of 74 was just so special. And today it is too. So as I've watched Spelman become this number one HBCU, how we, even though the brothers from the house don't actually talk about it that much, but that Spelman has actually now moved from number four and all of that to a number one institution, and all the things that women have done who have graduated from Spelman around the globe, it gives me a sense of pride that I had to evolve in order to understand it and to appreciate it. But I'm now, if you ask me, am I glad I went to Spelman? Absolutely.
Well, it was a very unique experience because we weren't just numbers. We
No.
mattered. They knew who we were, and it was I call scarlet threads that ran through the experience, connections and things like that that you know um showed up when you needed it to help you through. But wasn't it a great how would you say preview to life and the things that we would face later on?
Well, some of us came to the yard more developed, right?
Yeah.
More prepared not to be stuck in the past, not to be overwhelmed by the day to day stuff that we had never seen before, not to let it take us out. And I go back to 1974, that spring before we actually graduated. And I started to think about what is it that I wasn't, who knew what 50 years would have turned into, right?
Yes.
I'm glad that I didn't know, but I was as prepared for those next journeys as I was to come to Spelman. So every phase of the life is supposed to teach you more, give you more wisdom, experience, so that you can move on. I mean, I was just one of those people who wanted the next thing. If I've done it before and I mastered it, I wanted to do something else. I wanted to continue to challenge myself. And I'm always glad to talk with friends from those days who did the same thing. And it provides a lot of reassurance about your journey.
Well, it's interesting because as I was doing something today, well, I was going over my sermon today when we had that time period because it was a place where I was making the transition, but it wasn't smooth in me yet, and I like to be smooth and be good at what I do. But in thinking about the different aspects and thinking about, like you would say, the things that was thrust on you. I was the oldest in the Boy Scouts. Mr. Fisher leaned on me. At military school, guys that were older than me are finding out that they were older, but I was the big brother because that was instilled in me. My sisters, I was doing something for
If
charity.
I'm not mistaken, didn't you grow up with a lot of expectations,
I grew up with
parental expectations?
I grew up with not only parental expectations, but even in the neighborhood, among the parents
Yes.
of other kids, my boys and stuff. Now we all had great expectations, but they expected a lot out of me, and a lot of times, I got in trouble because, and maybe this ain't cool to say, but I was smart, and I was too smart for my own good.
Well, they
And
should say too smart for your own britches.
yeah, and it was always those that felt I should be cut down a notch or whatever. So I always had that, but still stuck up to the things I had to do. When I was doing some stuff for Sherry recently, my boy called. I was walking down the street, and he was laughing at me, and I said, "But I still hear Daddy in my ear. Look out for the girls." And it was a lot of those kinds of things instilled in us like that from not only father and mother, but my granddad and my grandma was around. My granddad on the other side, and they kept instilling stuff in us. Do you think that happens today enough? Like, back in the day, and I hate to compare stuff like that, but do you think that happens enough in people's lives today?
I don't have children of my own.
Mhm.
Like I said, I had my kids when I was a youngin.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
to speak on that specifically, the word extended family did not exist when I was a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
Mm-hmm.
concept that once I heard it, I liked it, and didn't quite understand it as fully as I do now. But I am now auntie. Okay, I'm auntie, and as auntie, I have young people. And when I say young people, I'm talking about anyone who's 17 to 18 years and beyond, younger than me, who call
Mm-hmm.
me auntie. Who,
Mm-hmm.
because of the real world, they would be the same age as my children if I'd had them early, or they could
Right.
be in their 40s if I had had them late. But
Right.
they call me and they tell me things, and I try to provide the kind of guidance that I got. And um, I just don't think you should waste your time on people who don't listen to you. That's my view. So every community has more than one tribe.
Mm-hmm.
In our day, the tribe was bigger. So now there's smaller tribes in the community. And I think that once you reach this place called I'm an elder, or your mom and dad are gone, then you become either the matriarch or the patriarch. Then you have to become a different kind of person. You can live your own life, but you also have to be responsible for what those young people see. When they come to you, you want to provide what my father used to call sage advice. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be selfish. You want to listen more, speak less. And then whatever it is and you hear or detect in them, then you want to provide adequate sustainment or tell them I don't know. You just got to take your time with them. But I believe that they're not lost. They just hadn't had the same kind of stern, disciplined, Negro experiences that we had, which kept us more gated as kids than they are. And I just had that conversation with my nephew today he said, about the differences between being a boomer and being 35, which is what he is. So um, I said, you guys you never were behind the gates. That's why
Yeah.
your experiences are different. But
Yeah.
we were primarily living segregated lives, even though the world had become integrated. We had Black communities, we had our own barbers, we had our own grocery stores, we had our own lawyers and dentists and all that. And we partied within our own communities as well. So I just think that those kind of stories and those kind of elevations to have them understand what Black means to us versus what it means to them, and then let them figure it out. We sat at the feet of our elders, some of which had been slaves, and we didn't become slaves, but we understood the experience as they explained it to us.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's right because here too, we had our own supper clubs and those kinds of things where we partied, where we interacted, and some of the old time 19, back before our day, in the 1940s and 50s, places that were here in Chicago, the jazz places and those kinds of things, were the only place that we could really go. So our money and everything, like you said, stayed in the community. When you bought a house, it was pride in that, and you kept your property and you kept things clean and those kinds of things. And somewhere it's gotten lost, or it's not as
I,
important. Do you think the
well,
movement and the freedom that we have now in some ways keeps us from building legacies and staying in places and doing stuff like that?
I hear people talk about that a lot, but I came back to Fayetteville right after my journey around the globe, minus my parents. And I came back home in the beginning of COVID. And every place has what do they call that? Its evolution, right? And being back here in Fayetteville is a whole lot different from living in the hub of America, Washington, D.C., or working in the Beltway, or working for big contractors and things like that, my view had to be modified a little bit. So when I start thinking about it, and I've had lots of time to think about it, I imagine it this way. In 1952, I go back and look at my birth certificate. Thankfully, it didn't say colored, but I can imagine that there are people in our class, if they go back and look at their birth certificate, depends on what part of the country they're from, they were born colored. I was a Negro. Okay.
I think mine says Negro too. It's in the closet right here, but I think mine
Yeah,
says Negro.
you know, I've had to use mine quite a bit. So I'm always wondering, you know, if you start thinking about party lines all the way to the internet, high speed data, terabytes, and all that kind of stuff that we have now, shoot, I'm glad I was born during the time that I was. I've seen so much, a black president. It's just been exciting.
My daddy would have loved that.
Oh, I think of it. And my father died before Obama became the president.
Man, too.
And but my mother got to see it. Yeah. And then I think of it and I was like, oh, I wish my grandmother had seen it. I mean, she was all about the Dodgers and black baseball and Willie Mays and all of those guys. And Joe Louis, just to think, what if we could have met Joe Louis or somebody, you know, but we did have Muhammad Ali. I mean, these kids today, they don't understand that that was important to us and how we were represented. And there was only a couple of shows that we were even in. So
yeah. It's been a very, I guess, transitional time, I guess, in our life, from one thing to another. Like you say, a lot of movement, you know, going to the moon, stuff like that. That was
I forgot. I'm glad you mentioned it, all of that. And now all you have to do is have enough money and you can take a spaceship journey and just go there and then come back. And you don't have to even go to NASA to get trained. You can just take the ride.
Well, you know, it's a different place. And it's you know, people are a lot of upset about a whole lot of different things off of balance these days, but you know, I'm not off of balance about anything because there's nothing new up under the sun.
Never. And I'm really just happy. I'm a happy person now, Bobby, and it feels really good. Especially, I spend a lot of time because of the internet and because of handheld telephones and mobile devices. I spend a lot of time talking to my classmates from Spelman and Morehouse. And that connection, out of all of the connections, I think that one has brought me the most joy. I have my Army buddies, I have my high school friends, but nothing touches that Atlanta experience. What is that we used to call Atlanta? The lovely Atlanta.
Lovely Atlanta. We used to call it the Dream Factory.
That part. Yeah, the lovely.
Because you could get some philosophical conversations on Saturdays and Sundays when we was drinking Mad Dog sitting outside by
y'all was drinking Mad Dog.
Yeah, you know, I know.
We drank Boone's Farm.
Yeah, right. but you can get some intellectual perusings, going back and forth. But a lot of them, you know, have come forth and have come to bear about lives. And as I was sharing with the brothers, you know, when we were down there, you know, not only did we have dreams, but we was the day we walked on to that campus, we was the fulfillment of a lot of dreams in, you know, our not only family but community. Because like you said, people expected stuff from you. You know, you Mervyn and Ruth's son. I know that you ain't acting too much of a fool out here.
Or if you were, we're gonna tell on you.
Well, oh no. If they were right, they said too much. They knew me, but when we were kids, oh man, you got it from the point of stupidity all the way till you got home. Then you had to come in and face your mom and your daddy because them phone lines was burning up because not only we used to think it was nosy people looking, but they was our protection.
Well, when I think about it, Daddy moved us to Fayetteville, and they built their own neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I live across the street from kids that were also military brats, army brats.
Mm-hmm.
Our fathers were all airborne, special forces, special operations type guys, which made them elite in the first place.
Yeah.
And then they built these neighborhoods. And so
that's Fort Bragg there where you are, right?
Hey, that part, right?
Yeah.
So all of that, but we got to see it work too. So they
Yeah.
always had this family dynamic within those groups and units. And so it's amazing the things that I was able to see as a result of being a military brat. In addition to that, my neighbors were also military. Their kids were brats. So but you don't really understand what a brat is until you live it. We lived kind of independent of our parents, if that makes any sense. So we didn't get a lot of day-to-day because discipline for us meant do what you were supposed to do when we're not around. And it was when others saw you not doing what you already knew you weren't supposed to be doing, that's when the trouble started. As long as you were in the boundaries of not doing too much, because they did understand kids being kids, boys being boys, girls being girls. They understood kissing and they understood dating and they understood love. And so I had a pretty free, wonderful childhood. I don't have any complaints about it. And the things that I did have complaints about, I took them to mom and daddy because they always allowed us to have that open communication. Yeah. And I know everybody that I know didn't grow up that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the kind of way I am with my kids. I always come and tell me, and I always know I'm going to have something to say.
That part.
But here we go. But after that, we're going to be working to clear
that part.
The measure up with 100% of my backup to you, because I know you're not out here too stupid. We make mistakes, we get jammed up. But I know in my heart that you're not out here looking to, or that was the primary thought on your mind, to go out here and get in some skullduggery mess. So I can do that. And I think my dad and mom were the same with me. But you were talking about the military brat. I wasn't one, but I had them in my family, as we all do.
And didn't you go to a military academy?
I went to a military academy, St. Emma Military Academy, Powhatan, Virginia, 23139. Okay.
Oh, Jesus, was that your number?
That was the address to the school, complete with zip code. It was so funny. I'm going through a box, and I got a letter in the box written to me by my mother on my 16th birthday, and I still got that letter in this box.
Boy.
But another thing I was going to say about the Atlanta experience, like you were saying, some people was this, some people was that. I had an opportunity to be away from home.
Thank you.
Before I came, right, to develop some stuff, so you didn't get hoodwinked. I got in trouble the first week there playing, shooting pool in the bottom, taking them boys' money, and they was finna harangue me. And one of the guys down there walked me out of there. He said, Harley, they beat y'all fair and square. I grew up with a pool table in my basement. They was going to take the college board, But Bill walked me out, and he said, man, don't come back down here.
He thought you were a shark.
I didn't come back down there. Even when it was parties on Simpson Road, I made sure I wasn't going to that party down there, because boyfriend that walked me out of there with the money, but told me, don't be coming back.
And you know what? You speaking of that takes us back to another place like Spelman, Morehouse, 1970 expectation. The hood, was that even a word back then? We knew almost all black schools were in the hood, right? But to I guess imagining it, no one would, that it would be in the, because it was really, if we sat on the wall, if you remember sitting on the wall, the city boys and the city girls walk out Spelman's Gate, you're at Clark. Walk across the street, you're at Morehouse. Down the street, you're at Morris Brown and the Theological Seminary. AU Center, you know, AU Center is bigger than Spelman or Morehouse. And we got a lot of interaction with people outside of the yard you actually were getting your degree from. So I when you talk about being prepared, right? I think in essence, that hood experience, Fair Street and all of that stuff really got us prepared for the next phase.
And people being prepared was that's what all the Boy Scouts talked about when I was in the Boy Scouts. But listen, when you look at school days, you see Sam playing the Hood Boys and stuff. That's the way it was when we were in school, because we was kind of like looked at as outsiders when we got there. But Stephanie, look, our 30 minutes for today is up. You gonna come do this again with me?
I like it. I think there's a lot of space to actually enhance some of the conversation, but I'm also interested in being able to keep up with the other folks who maybe would take advantage of what we talked about, bring their point of view into it. I know that you've been on this path for a while to create this journey, and you've heard or gotten at least a insight into mine.
Yeah, I do. And the thing is, it gives us a chance to kind of look at our journey as we speak of our journey. Yes. But anyway, thank you for coming here. Everybody log on. Make sure. Go to Gospel of Robert, GospelRobert, capital ROBERT. Put the @ in front. Subscribe. You can view previously posted segments of the journey by clicking on live. One of my girls called me out. She said, I'm up 3 a.m. watching your stuff, Reverend Bobby.
I know that's fun.
Stephanie, thank you so very much. You were just so wonderful as always. I love you. I'll see you soon. And for all other people today, Stephanie and myself, wish, hope, and pray that you journey well from here. Peace.